Hey everybody, how are you doing today? My name is John, and today is day 376 of my 3-year challenge to lose 300 pounds. A little bit about me: I'm 39 years old, and I've really suffered from being overweight my whole life. This past year, I had gotten to a point where my weight got really out of control, and I was up over 500 pounds. And over the years, I've had success with losing weight, and I found different ways to, kind of reach goals or hit large weight loss uh, numbers, but I've never been able to sustain the weight loss. And a lot of it I always felt like is that I could never figure out how to, change my diet or really find out, a way to eat the way somebody who's 100 pounds eats. So I started this challenge with two major goals in mind. The first goal was that I knew I needed to stick with this for as long as I could, or for a longer time than I ever have. And a lot of times I could, sustain a diet for a couple weeks, couple months. The longest I can really think of is maybe 9, 10 months. And then things kind of start, uh, old habits start creeping in, and the weight starts coming back on. And so I knew I needed to commit to spending enough time to not only lose the weight, but also find out how I can maintain the weight. The other big part of this was that I also needed to really lose a lot of weight. And I've set goals before to lose 50 pounds or to lose 100 pounds, or, as much weight as I can lose until this event happens. But a lot of times I'm, or every time, I would get to that goal or that event would happen, and people would be really excited and they'd congratulate me. But at the end of the day, I was still very overweight. And so I also knew I needed to commit to losing more weight than I've ever lost before. So that's why I set my goal for 300 pounds. Everything so far has been going great. I'm just over a year in. Like I said, I'm on day 376. I've lost about 200 pounds, or a little over 200 pounds so far. And it's been just a crazy experience. I started planning to do a 30-day water fast. I had done some extended water fasting prior to starting this, and I was confident that I could get through a 30-day water fast, and it was going to be the quickest way for me to lose weight. And I'm sure it was the quickest way I could have lost weight, because I was feeling really well, and I actually pushed the 30-day water fast to a 42-day water fast, and I lost 90 pounds in that time. During that water fast, I did a lot of research about diet and fasting, and I found the True North Clinic that they recommend people eat a whole food plant based SOS, or salt, oil, sugar free diet. And so me and my wife adopted that diet after my fast, and since then I've been able to lose another 110 pounds. Um, like I said, it's been an incredible experience. I Losing 200 pounds in the first year was as good as I could have hoped for, and I'm excited for, the future and losing the next 100 pounds and maintaining the weight loss. If anybody has any non-scale victories they'd like to share, I'd love to hear your non-scale victories. Um, any questions, comments, anything you want to ask, let me know. And whether you're watching this live or if it's after too, I'd love to hear from you guys. Carrie's checking in saying, "Hey, hi, Carrie. I hope everything's going great at home." Uh, since yesterday, didn't have a super eventful, I talked about it a lot this week, this daylight savings. When I walk out of the office here, it's going to be 15 minutes until sunset. And that doesn't leave much time to do anything in the afternoon. And these leaves that are falling are just getting crazy too. I really was hoping that the leaves would fall off the trees a couple weeks ago, and they've decided that this week is the week that they're going to fall. So every there's just leaves everywhere, and it's dark, and it's hard to get anything done. So I'm looking forward to this weekend where I'll be able to get out and do some yard work. But yesterday, um, didn't end up doing a whole lot again because of the daylight savings. Ended up catching up on some television shows that I had been watching. But for dinner, we did have something new. It was tahini garlic pasta Carrie made, and it was good. It needed something, I as we were eating it, we were kind of talking about things that could have been added to it that would improve it. I think in the end, if we would have put peas in it, I think I would have really liked it, of all the things we were talking about. But I liked it as it was. Um, the I talked a little bit about on stream that we're trying to get our kids to give these foods an attempt. Carrie didn't have any faith in this food, so she made just made the kids noodles with a peanut sauce and some carrot slices. And most of the kids liked it, or I think it was probably 50-50. Um, but we got them to try that. But I think that the tahini garlic pasta, I think they would have probably ate that fine as well. Um, like I said, I liked it. It was boring, if anything, because it really I don't know what the sauce that was in it was, but it just was really noodles with some onion in it and then this sauce. But I enjoyed it. Uh, and that was kind of what, like I said, that's what we had for dinner. I ended up snacking on dehydrated mango a lot last night, more than I had been, or in the yeah, it was more than I had in a while. I just really enjoy it, and I don't feel bad about it. I don't know if it affects digestion, but I have had some satisfying trips to the restroom in the last 24 hours, and I think it might have been a little bit because of the mango and just the diet in general. I had been feeling uh I don't know. It's weird to talk about too, but like I wasn't having issues going to the bathroom, but for a while there it wasn't uh it yeah, it just wasn't as satisfying, or it didn't feel like I was cleaning it out as much. So I'm starting to feel better with that. Carrie is the sauce. Okay, so the food that we had yesterday, the tahini garlic pasta. The sauce was a silken tofu, lemon juice, tahini, nutritional yeast. It wasn't too exciting. Um, and then you added the garlic, so it was just a tahini sauce that you added garlic to. And I know you said that the recipe ad recommended a lot more lemon juice, or it had a lot of lemon juice, so you kind of adjusted that to make it a little bit more enjoyable. Uh, but yeah, that was dinner yesterday. Mangoes as a snack, and then today kind of back, I am really liking this 2 meal a day kind of setup I'm on. Um I am hoping that it reflects in the scale, hoping that it is okay, or that I'm losing weight doing this, because I get really hungry about now, during the stream or after the stream till I get home. I haven't eaten at this point since um 8:15 a.m. And so I'm on about 8 hours that I haven't eaten. I've just had some liquid or had water. And uh, when I get home, uh, I have dinner and I snack a little bit more. I eat a little bit more than I would if I was eating a lunch. But I don't see, but that's, I don't know that I'm eating more. I think I'm just eating the same as I would, you know. Anthony's saying, hey, Anthony, I hope everything's going good for you today. So with the 2 meals that I eat, uh, breakfast isn't huge. It's probably, again, it's generally it's a decent sized bowl of oatmeal. And then like this morning I had are avocado miso toast, and um, it's a good amount of food. It is, but then I don't eat for 8 hours, and then I'll go home. I'll have whatever we're having for dinner tonight, and some snacks, cashews, and I probably won't have toast again. I usually try to only have toast once a day because that's just a lot of Ezekiel bread. I was thinking about how crazy it is, the amount of Ezekiel bread that I actually eat. This is something I probably never would have even tried a year ago, and we've probably purchased a truckload of it over the past year. But um, the like I said, I'm really enjoying the setup the way I have it, and I'm hoping that it reflects in the scale. It seems to be reflecting in the scale. I kind of check my weight, um, and doing okay. It's one of those things that I'm trying to wrestle with how much I want to push it and how much I feel like I'm uh, just happy with what I've been able to accomplish so far, and I don't want to screw anything up as well. So, um, but yeah, that's kind of just the diet has really it's I feel like I'm in a rhythm with the diet that's really good, and I like the rhythm I'm in. And I talked about it yesterday. I'm really happy with the variety I still get to have because like the tahini garlic sauce on noodles we had yesterday is something that was brand new. It does help that we got this new blender that Carrie is in love with and is trying multiple recipes with. So our meals have changed a bit, and I'll be interested to see how some meals that were maybe little I'm trying to think. We had like a lentil soup or something that was blended that was a little gritty, that with the new blender, if that would smooth that out, because it's pretty crazy how smooth it makes things. Um and so yeah, with the diet, I'm in a good routine. I like how things are going, and I'm happy that we're getting a variety. We're still eating a variety of foods, and I'm trying new things, and I'm getting taste different flavors. Uh Even after over a year of being on this diet. Uh, so then something that popped up today that I had not really seen, or it hadn't been on my radar. There is a podcast that Carrie really likes that she's been bugging me about listening to their podcast episodes. So on the way into work today, I checked out their playlist, and it is called the Exam Room Podcast. It's put on by a group called the Physicians Committee, and they had the latest episode was an interview with a director or producer of a new documentary that was releasing called "They're Trying to Kill Us." And I'm trying to see if I can see the who the director was. It was John Lewis and Keegan Kuhn that put this video together. It was a if you get a chance to check out the website, I would recommend checking it out. It's they're trying to kill us.com. It has a trailer for the movie. You can, if you click on the watch now at the top of the page, you can watch the film. Um, and it was, like I said, it wasn't on my radar at all this morning. And today was the release date. And that might be why I imagine that's why that was the latest episode that was on the physician committee's, the exam room podcast. Uh, So they were talking about it. I didn't know when it released. And then I got to work today, and completely unsolicited or without talking to Carrie at all, she sent me a text message that had a link to the website for They're Trying to Kill Us, because she had been listening to the podcast as well this morning, when she was doing some stuff at the house. And then that's when I found out that the documentary came out today. And and so I kind of checked it out. I had to kind of split it up throughout the day, and I watched the documentary. It is a documentary that's focused on a lot of like hip hop culture and the African American culture, and how the food and how everything is set up in their communities is pretty biased towards eating dairy and meat. And there's a lot of uh, political influence and money that creates these, the environment that they're like, what that they live in and they've grown up in, and how it's been it's been such a big part of their culture. And how a lot, like they talk about early on in the film, that there's a lot of things that are considered African American foods that are, they come from while they were in slavery, and like eating pig's feet and eating intestines and things that weren't considered um the best parts. They were the scrap of the animal, and they've kind of taken those pieces of the animal and they've made them, their own. But it's like that culture was created out of slavery. And so there's a lot of that food that, y- like I said, they said in the movie that you're kind of celebrating some of what was happening in that time, and there was really nothing that came out of that time that was worth celebrating. So, um, but there was a lot of things in the movie that I had never heard before, and that I and then there were some things that I've heard of before, but I didn't really think of how it would affect them. And so one of the things I had never heard before is that at one point that it became like law in these communities that you could only have a certain number of fruit trees in your yard. You couldn't have more than 6 fruit trees in your yard, or you couldn't give away fruit, or there was like these laws that were set up that I had never heard that before. And it was just a quick part of the movie that they didn't really expand on. It was just mentioned. Um, the other thing that they talked about that I guess I kind of knew but never really thought of is that there'll be like a grocery store that comes into a community, and they'll be set up and they'll be in that community for a while, and then they'll move out, or they'll move kind of away from that community but not far. And then they left this grocery store empty, and they don't allow a grocery store to occupy that location. They have like these do not compete clauses in these retail, these real estate contracts that say, you can buy this building, but you can't make it a grocery store, because a lot of times they'll have built a grocery store not far away, and they'll feel like that would infringe on their customer base. But also that customer base that was established by that bigger chain grocery store um, already knows to go to that location for groceries. So whether it's the big chain grocery store or somebody who just replaced them, people are still going to go to that location for groceries, just because the original grocery store exists there past. Um, but they're like 10, 20-year contracts. Or so this grocery store moves out, and then for 10 years they can't put a grocery store in that same building. And um that affects the community overall. Uh the others so uh there was a lot of, like I said, it was a lot of hip hop based, and so it had like Cedric the Entertainer. There's some people, I don't know, you'd have heard of, like Styles P, and there was another one. Billie Eilish was in it. Chris Paul, I think, is a basketball player. He was one of the um producers of the film. Yeah, Chris Billie Eilish was a seven-time Grammy winner. She was one of the executive producers, and then Chris Paul was an NBA basketball player. Um, and then there was a lot of doctors that have been in this space that I've been listening to, like Dr. Dean Ornish, Dr. Bernard, Alan Goldhammer is in it, Dr. Milton Mills, Michael Greger, all of these doctors that have been kind of uh, in all this, this plant-based space were in this movie and had some great things to say and talking about how like there was there were two times in the movie where they put a graphic up that kind of laid out um like a tree of things. And one of the times that really stuck out was um when they talk about who owns all of the food companies like Coca-Cola, and like the CEOs and all these top people and all these executives in these food industries. And I don't know all of the food industries, but they're the same people that are the top executives. Like they move from the food industry to the drug industry, and they're running these pharmaceutical companies. And they say it at one time in the movie, and it didn't even really dawn on me before, but the FDA is the Food and Drug Administration. What do food and drugs have to do with anything at all? Why wouldn't there be a food administration and then there be a drug administration? Like, and the fact that they make them together creates all kinds of conflicts, because like they talk about is that they have these studies that show that their foods aren't the best, or that they might not be healthy for us, and but they don't tell us those things. They don't release those studies. They kind of compared it to the tobacco industry, that the tobacco industry knew for years that what they were selling wasn't really healthy, but they didn't want that information to get out. And um and so it's just been just that they don't need to be intertwined. And when the food makes you sick, then you go buy pharmaceuticals that make you feel a little bit better. So then you don't stop eating that food that continues to make you sick. And it just creates this crazy cycle. Carrie says the food desert thing gets her. Any fresh fruit or veggies available in food desert is likely marked up, just like diapers, which we deal with a lot with our nonprofit. And then the lower income families have to pay for more for those basics. Yeah, because the it ends up being that the stores that have the fresh fruit are very rare, and they end up being, there might be five convenience stores in a community, but only one of them has fresh fruit. And then that guy knows he's the only one that ever carries fresh fruit. So if anybody wants the fresh fruit and they don't have transportation or the ability to go anywhere, they're going to come to him and they're going to have to pay more. Um, there's also things about like the um you can only transport 2 bags of groceries on public transportation in a lot of these towns. And if you're eating a plant-based diet, picking up a week's worth of groceries generally is more than what you would fit in 2 bags. But if you are able to uh when you eat animal products, it's packaged such that there's higher calorie count, and so you get more calories in a smaller volume, and that's the way people end up going a lot of times. And so, um, again, it was not a movie that I even had heard about or was gonna watch today, and then I ended up watching it. I really liked the movie. Lots of information that I wouldn't have had before. If I had to give any critiques of the movie, is I didn't feel like there was any. um like real protagonist or there was any storyline. Uh it was this incredible like hour and 45-minute just like trailer of why you should become why you should eat plant-based or why you should question a lot of what's presented out there, especially in the African American community. Um but it was like the video never stayed on an image for more than like 4 or 5 seconds. It was like constantly cutting to new things, and there was like this soundtrack like or bass track underneath it this whole time, the whole movie. And then they just bounced from kind of, they kind of grouped these 20 people they interviewed. They grouped their answers, together and had some flow to it, and it didn't really tell a story. It kind of just revealed a lot of information that I don't think people would have considered, or that I didn't really consider before. Um and it also, they talk a lot about the money that is subsidized in the meat industry and how the meat and dairy industry gets like $38 billion in subsidies, which is, I think, it's like 7 or 8 billion more than what we spend or give out in like SNAP or food benefits to people. And they don't really, we don't ever talk about that we are subsidizing the meat industry more than we're subsidizing people's ability to buy food or to live. Um, and uh, if they didn't subsidize meat, that the cost, the example they give in the movie is that if you have a $4 Big Mac, that if there wasn't subsidies, it would be $11 for that same. So it's almost 3 times more expensive to get that beef. Um, but with the subsidies, we're able to get it for cheap. And so, um, right. So the way the movie is set up, Carrie's saying it has the potential to reach populations that other documentaries might not appeal to. Yes, I think that there's a lot that can be done with this movie. I think that they could take just sound bites of it and release, these sound bites of these guys saying particular things. I really liked um I've always liked Alan Goldhammer from the True North Clinic, and I didn't even like. I looked at the list of all the doctors or the people that were in it, and I hadn't seen him, and so I was surprised to see him in there. And all of his sound bites I thought were really powerful, or they were very matter of fact and to the point, which is the way he is with everything. And that's part of the reason I like what kind of the way he talks about it, or the way he does his stuff. But um overall, I'd recommend it. It's not something that you have to like sit there and watch. Well, I take that back. There were some really nice graphics too. Like there was a graphic where they were showing the clogging of an artery that kind of broke it down a little bit different than I had seen before. And there was a lot of stats. There was a lot of statistics about if you have this in your diet, you're more likely to have these problems. The percentage of lactose intolerance among uh, minority populations is extremely high in comparison to with the Caucasian population. And we deal with that a little bit in that our oldest kid is definitely lactose intolerant, and he loved milk up until he got to a point where it wasn't appropriate to be farting in public. Uh, he drank milk, and once but we always knew that he kind of had something going on, that anytime he would have dairy or drink milk, that he'd get gassy and have problems. Sorry if you hear this in 20 years, Dan. I'm ratting you out about your lactose intolerance. But uh and so we cut that out of his diet and it improved a ton. He still has dairy, but like the eating, just having milk, or he used to have dairy. He doesn't have dairy much. Um yeah, and then some of the other systemic things, like that you have to opt out for milk. We had to do that with our kids. We had to tell the school that uh we wanted our kids to be able to drink water at lunch. So like you have to opt out of milk or else uh they have to take it. Um right, Carrie says it was 80 to 90% lactose intolerance in those in the African American community. I think the Asian community had a very high percentage of lactose intolerance, as well as the Hispanic too. Um, yeah, it was just, yeah, it was cool to see that. Like it was not anything that was on my radar. There is a documentary that doesn't have a release date coming out yet, I think called Milked, that was kind of the next one I thought I was gonna see. And so seeing this today was it was really cool to see that. Just kind of, again, it's the people, especially in this movie, that because towards the end of the movie, a lot of them talk about switching to a plant based diet and the benefits that they got from switching to a plant based diet. Um, would not really be people that you would expect, and the the things they were talking about in that, no, I don't know. It's just weird, like because you see it from the outside. I've seen, but not like they talk about the movie. Like having like every black family. Pretty much you have an uncle that's missing a limb because of diabetes, or you've had issues. Like uh, crazy. Anyway, let's see. Carrie said, yeah, she got a doctor's note for Danny when he was before we switched uh to this diet. She got a doctor's note for Danny, so he didn't have to get the milk. And then I don't know what we did now, or if it's even a thing when we send, because we send lunch with the kids, which also this year in particular, it's going to change next year, but they offer free breakfast and free lunch at the schools, but not a lunch or a breakfast that we really want to. We let our kids eat the breakfast, but we have them take lunch. Anyways, I think I'm gonna get out of here for today. I like I said, I would recommend checking out They're Trying to Kill Us. You can check out the website. It is they're trying to kill us.com. So it's THEYRETRYINGKILL. That um so uh yeah. Anyways, gonna get out of here today. If you guys haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure that you do get subscribed to the channel. Click on the bell icon to turn on notifications so you get alerted when I go live, which is generally 4 p.m. on weekdays. I will be live again tomorrow. It'll be Friday, with the weekend coming up. Thanks everybody again. If you haven't started your diet, get started right now. There's no reason to wait. There's no event coming up that is more important than taking care of your health. And nobody ever gets to the goal weight or the ideal weight or where they want to be and looks back and says, I wish I would have waited. Everybody says, I wish I would have started sooner. And so get started right now. You guys all have a great afternoon.